And welcome to Technology Tap. I'm Professor J. Rod. In this episode, from zip drives to CD, the battle for the future of storage. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Technology Tap. I'm your host, Professor J. Rod, and today we're traveling back to the fascinating crossroads in computer history. The late 1900s and early 2000s, an era where technology was evolving at breakneck speed. Computers were faster, graphics richer, and software heavier than ever before. But storage was stuck. The 1.4 megabit floppy disk, once the king of convenience, can barely hold a single high-resolution photo. Files were getting bigger. Software suites like Microsoft Office, multimedia programs like Adobe Photoshop, and games like Myst, Quake, and Half-Life were ballooning in size. Enter two titans of storage, each promising salvation. The zip drive, a bold reinvention of the floppy disk from a company named Iomega, offering massive capacities at a time when 100 megabytes seemed infinite. And the CD-ROM, born from a collaboration between Sony and Philips, transforming compact music discs into vessels for data, games, and multimedia. Today we'll explore who created these technologies, how much they cost, what made them successful or fail, and how they shaped computing for an entire generation. The end of the floppy era. By the mid-1990s, 3.5-inch floppy disk had reached its limit. At 1.44 megabytes, it simply couldn't keep up. Programs like Microsoft Office 97 came on 30 floppies. A single PowerPoint with images could fill a disk. Backup strategies became jokes. No one wanted to swap 40 floppies to save their hard drives. The world needed something familiar, but bigger. Users didn't just want more space. They wanted the same experience as a floppy. Simple, insert, drag, save, eject. No formatting tricks, no special tapes or drives. This was the gap that Iomega Corporation saw. Founded in 1980 in Royal, Utah, Iomega started small, building backup products like the Meridian box, which used flexible magnetic platters provided by air cushions. These products were fast and reliable, but expensive, aimed at business, not home users. By the early 90s, Iomega's engineers began dreaming of a super floppy, something affordable for customers, but powerful enough for professionals. Their mission? 100 megabytes in your pocket. The birth of the zip drive. In 1994, Iomega has released the first zip drive, along with its Zip 100 disk. Storage, 100 megabytes. That's roughly 70 times the floppy. Technology, advanced magnetic coating, price heading positioning, and a rugged cartridge. Design, sleek, blue, portable, about the size of a paperback novel. Price, the drive itself costs $199, and each disc costs $19.95. For many users, $20 per disc felt steep until they realized it can store the entire hard drive. I remember buying one for the office at work, and it was very, very bright. Like, it was amazing when it first came out. It connected via parallel ports, slow by modern standards, but universal in 1994. Later versions added SCSI, USB, and even internal IDE models. The marketing blitz. Iomega didn't just launch a product, they launched a movement. Their marketing was bold, cheeky, and confident. The tagline, click, zip, done. TV commercials showed users tossing floppies in the trash. Magazines ads promise, forget the floppy, meet the zip. And it worked. By 1996, the zip drive was everywhere, bundled with gateway PCs sold in Best Buy aisles, and adopted by universities for student backups. Real-world memory. College computer labs stacked with shared zip drives. IT departments issued disks to students like library cards. By 1997, Iomega claimed to have shipped over 12 million drives and 100 million disks. Everyday life with the zip drive. For many users, the zip drive was freedom. Graphic designers use it to move Photoshop projects between home and office. Students stored term papers, early websites, and entire portfolios. Business used zips for backups, cheaper than tape, easier than external drives. I remember those days. In 1998, journalists covering the E3 Expo carried zip disks loaded with press kits, one disk for each company. Zip drives became a badge of tech credibility. If you had one, you were serious about computing. The click of death. But success hit a ticking time bomb, literally. Users began reporting a loud click, click, click sound when inserting disks. Soon after, total data loss. The infamous click of death was caused by drive misalignment, which would physically damage disks, making them unreadable on any drive. Iomega initially denied the problem, calling it user error. Lawsuits follows. Tech Magazine published exposés. In 1999, a graphic design firm lost a client's entire archive, hundreds of hours of work, to the click of death. Trust evaporated. Competitors and the fall. Other storage options were rising fast. CDR drives were becoming affordable, holding 650 to 700 megabytes per disk. External hard drives were dropping in price. USB flash drives arrived around 2000, starting at 8 megabytes, but climbing rapidly. Iomega tried to fight back. The Zip 250 came out in 1998, 250 meg per disk at $250 cost per drive. And the Zip 750 in 2002, 750 megabytes, USB 2.0 backward compatible. But it was too late. By the early 2000s, the Iomega glory faded. The super floppy era ended as quickly as it began. Reflection. The zip drive was the bridge we crossed and then left behind. The legacy of the zip drive. Despite its decline, the zip drive deserved credit. It bridged the gap between the floppy and the optical disk. It introduced customers to high-capacity removable storage. It made backup a household idea, not just a corporate one. Today, zip drives are collective items, a symbol of the late 90s computing boom. Fun fact, NASA used zip drives on the International Space Station in the early 2000s for portable data transfer. From floppies to zip, we moved hundreds of megabytes at a time, but just as Omega reaches peak, another technology, sleek, shiny, and read by lasers, was waiting in the wind. A shiny new medium, the compact disc, was born from collaboration. In 1979, Philips and Sony joined forces to create a digital audio format to replace vinyl records and cassettes. By 1982, the first commercial CDs hit the market. Billy Joel's 52nd Street was among the first albums released. Each disc stored 74 minutes of digital audio, about 650 megabytes of data, a stunning figure compared to the 1.44 megabytes floppies. Engineers chose 74 minutes so a CD can hold Beethoven's Ninth Symphony in full at Sony's co-founder Akio Morita's request. Turning music into data. Engineers quickly realized the potential beyond music. By the mid-80s, Sony and Philips introduced the CD-ROM, the compact disc read-only memory, a format for computer data storage. Each CD-ROM can hold around 650 to 700 megabytes, the equivalent of 450 floppies. The first CD-ROM drives appeared in 1985-86, primarily for business and academic use. Cost around $1,000 for the drive and $500 to $100 per disc. Early adopters, encyclopedia, database, and reference tools. The Growler Electronic Encyclopedia in 1995 was one of the first customer CD-ROMs fitting the entire library's worth of text on one disc. And I remember when I first bought my first CD-ROM, I bought it at Electronic Boutique on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. And it cost me, with a sound card, $385. I think that was in 1994, 1995. And for those of you old timers like me who remember the cable that you had to connect from the back of the CD to the sound card? If you played a CD off the CD-ROM, you had, in order to listen off the sound card, you have to have that cable. Yeah, good old days. No, wait, I bought it at CompUSA. Not Electronic Boutique. CompUSA, a big store. I had a huge store on Fifth Avenue in the 30s somewhere, a long time ago. All right. CD-ROMs go mainstream. By the early 1990s, CD-ROMs became a household name. Drives dropped by price. By 1993, an internal CD-ROM drive cost about $200. Wow, they ripped me off. And pre-recorded disc around $20 to $30. Software publishers embraced the format. Microsoft Encarta, a multimedia encyclopedia, came out. Myst, a groundbreaking CD-ROM game with rich visuals and audios. The Sims, SimCity 2000, and Wing Commander 3. Oh, I loved Wing Commander. Maybe I'll do a story on Wing Commander. They had the guy from Star Wars was the voice of Wing Commander. Luke. Yeah, he would voice it. I think I'm going to do an episode on Wing Commander. All leverage the capacity for full motion video and sound. Nostalgia. Installing Myst in 1993 felt like stepping into the future. Lush graphics, ambient soundscapes, all from one gleaming disc. The rise of the CD burner. At first, CD-ROMs were read-only, but users wanted to create their own disc. CDR recordables, introduced in 1990, mass adaptation by 1995. Cost, drives cost $1,000, blank discs cost $20 each. By 1999, the drives dropped to $200 and discs to $1 each. I remember we had them at the office, and then I don't remember buying my first one. I guess it must have came with a computer, but they're the standard now. Real-world memory, early adopters proudly labeled their burnt mix CD in your Sharpie, filling cases with Summer Jam's 1999 and Final Paper backup. Then came the CD-RW, the rewritables, allowing data to be erased and rewritten a bit slowly and less reliable. Everyday life with the CD. By the late 1990s, music fans burned album and playlists. Business distributed software on CDs. Gamers installed titles like Half-Life, StarCraft, Age of Empires 2. Schools and universities handed out courseware CDs. Anecdote, I still remember buying Encarta 97 in a jewel case that proudly said contains 32,000 articles, 10,000 photos, and 50 videos. It was the internet offline. For home users, the CDR became the go-to for backup, documents, photos, and even early digital music libraries. And one company that really took advantage of the CDs, hold on to your hat, guys, if you remember, American Online. American Online sent its installation software on almost every magazine that ever came out. Like if you were a tech and you went to fix somebody's PC and they asked you, hey, can you install American Online on my PC? All you had to do was go to any magazine that they had at their house, flip to it, and most likely you would find an American Online CD in there. They were everywhere. Like you could just go and buy any magazine and there was American Online CD in there. The blitz that they made for that campaign was absolutely amazing because they put, like, you could not see a American Online CD. They were everywhere. So for those of you who don't remember, they were everywhere. Yeah. DVD looms, CD peaks. By 1996, the DVD arrived, offering 4.7 gig per layer, 7 times a CD. Still, CDs held on. They were cheap, familiar, and universal. By 2000, over 20 billion CDs were produced annually. That's every year, guys. Artists released albums on CD into the streaming era. Software installs shipped on CD well into the 2010s. Fun fact, Microsoft Windows XP shipped on a single CD, just fitting under the 700 megabytes rule. The slow fade. As broadband spread and USB drives grew, CD lost. Flash drives offer rewritable pocket-sized convenience. Digital download replaced physical media. By 2010s, laptop like Apple's MacBook Air shipped without optical drives. Yeah, and that's true. Laptops don't ship with CDs anymore. You have to specifically ask for it, get like a gamer PC or buy just USB. Like the companies will tell you, yeah, our laptops are the battery will last longer and all that. Yeah, because they took out everything inside and they'll make you buy via USB. So I think they make more money if you buy it that way. Today, CDs live mostly on as music nostalgia and retro storage, but their influence remains. The legacy of zip and CD. The zip drive and the CD taught users to own their data, to back up, archive, and carry it. They bridge analog and digital. From floppy swapping to burning disks, these technologies gave us a hands-on relationship with our files. They were also democratizing. For the first time, anyone can publish, share, and store gigabytes of personal content. And that was true. This was the era. I mean, it was an amazing time when new products were coming out all the time. And, the zip drive and the CD and the DVD, they were, that's when everything changed. Everything, Netflix changed, right? You didn't have Blockbuster anymore. Everything just went digital now with the CD and the DVD. The zip drive, unfortunately, it went like a rocket, and just like a rocket does sometimes, just exploded in midair and crashed really hard. But yeah, I remember the click of death on a couple of my former coworkers. When it would just click, you hear it click, 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 and that's it. It was nothing you can do about it. It was good, and it did teach people how to back up, right? Because if you had a zip drive, you could back up your whole hard drive, and that's when people started really taking backup seriously. Was because it was, as with anything, you make it convenient for people, they would do it. But if you make it hard, i.e., sit there with 40 floppies trying to back up your stuff, right? Disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, that people are not going to be able to do that. But with the zip drive and the CD, especially when the rewritables came out, you gave the people the opportunity to back up their stuff. So this is when people started taking ownership for their own computer, and it was a good thing as far as the user experience is concerned, right? You were finally saying, I'm going to take ownership of the stuff that I have, of my hard drive, my personal space. Because before, I mean, even now, nobody backs up at work their PCs. Everything is stored on a server, which is stored on the cloud somewhere. But back then, people had to back up their stuff, and it's not like nowadays. People will back up the whole thing, the operating system, the whole thing, on these zip drives and CDs, because who wanted to reinstall 40 disks of Windows, 95, 98? Nobody wanted to do that. Nobody. So this became a lot easier with the zip drive and the CDs. And, and it was good to see that people were taking computing a little bit more serious. But, they're all gone now. Like, yeah, I have a CD, a DVD, a Blu-ray, I think, on my computer and one on my laptop, but I specifically had to ask for that on the side, right? It didn't come with it. So nowadays they're gone, guys. This is, it's the end of an era. You go to, the CD morphed into the DVD, the movie industry, the music industry changed for a little bit, right? companies were making millions of dollars on DVD sets and DVD movies, but everything moved to streaming now. That's a revenue that they've lost, right? Not being able to you can have a movie barely make profit in the movie theater, but then make money off the DVD and make profit off the DVD. You don't have that option anymore. That option is gone. I mean, I should do that. Like how the movies went from video to DVD, how video renting you would make money, and then DVDs came out and people would buy them, and how that whole thing's changing to streaming. And I have some issues with that also, DVDs and streaming also. And maybe I'll make an episode on that. Yeah. But if for those of you out there who remember the zip drives, if you have any horror stories to tell, yeah, let me know. ProfessorJrod@gmail.com. I would love to hear some of your stories with the zip drive failures. I'm sure there are people out there who crashed and burned, in the early to late 90s with the zip drive. Or how was the experience with your CD-ROM and your DVDs? How did that affect? Did you migrate over very quickly with the death of the zip drive, or did you hang in there a little bit with the zip drive? But all in all, that wraps it up through our journey through the zip drive and the CD era, a time when storage became personal, portable, and powerful. The zip drive gave us capacity we've only dreamed of, while the CD put information, music, and multimedia in our hands. Together, they bridged the floppy age and the digital frontier, paving the way for DVDs, USBs, cloud storage, and beyond. I hope you like this episode of Technology Tap. I'm Professor J. Rod. Subscribe and share with a friend who remembers burning their first CD or hearing the click of death. And as always, keep tapping into technology, and we'll see you on the next episode. This has been a presentation of Little Cha Cha Productions, art by Sarah, music by Joe Kim. We're now part of the Pod Match Network. You can follow me at TikTok at Professor J Rod, that's JROD, or you can email me at ProfessorJrod, JROD, @gmail.com.